Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone has been trying to stay cool on probably the hottest day of the year. And let me tell you, the day has just got hotter, or the night, or the evening, wherever you are, especially if you're a Liverpool fan. Um, Welcome, everyone. There's over 300 of you guys camped in here in the chat already. And I get it. I understand. We have a lot to get through. As you can see, the agenda, the talking points may have slightly changed, but hey, the talking points nevertheless. As you can see, I've got the mighty Mo, I've got Mo Chatra, I've got Jassian. I don't need to introduce them one by one today. We need to get straight into it with the breaking news that has been relayed on social media that Zubimendi has rejected Liverpool. Yes, those are the words that are being used. Yes, I think those are the words that are very apt. We're not going to mince our words on today's show because I think rejected is absolutely the right word. And the reason why I use that, and I'll come to you, Mo Chatra, first. The reason why I'm saying the word rejected is because of the public nature of this chase.
Well, I put out a thread on X or Twitter just earlier today, and I said something along the lines of, after the episode from a year ago with Caicedo, the club wouldn't want to be linking itself and briefing the likes of Ornstein, Joyce, etc., to a specific player unless they were extremely confident they had him in the bag. And yet, lo and behold, a week later, the player has rejected us, and it's like deja vu all over again. So, tonight, Reds will be fuming, rival fans will be lapping it up, and then some. But wherever way you look at it, it's not a good look for the club. Their number one target for the summer ultimately has pulled out of the deal. I mean, we'll get into perhaps why that might have happened. We'll all be speculating, of course, but
Absolutely.
nonetheless, when all is said and done, he is not coming to Liverpool Football Club. And whether we will now go and find somebody else or not remains to be seen. But that position aside, the number 6 one, we also still clearly, the consensus amongst most fans was we needed to get some more business done, and time is rapidly running out. And we're still the only club in the top 5 leagues in Europe not to have signed a single player. So fans rightly are asking questions, and the fume is understandable. Some of it will be over the top, sure, but the point still stands. Fans are criticising increasingly so for good reason.
Mo, of course, welcome as always. Slight mood change from the start of the show. As soon as we came live, it was all over everywhere. And you sometimes think, the Mario Balotelli line of why always me or why always us? I mean, just initial reaction and thoughts, basically.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure people can see it because of my camera angle. So, there's a reason why I came on with this t-shirt. Because that is basically all of us right now, fading into the bushes, pretending like we weren't making comps about how great Zubimendi was, pretending like he ain't all that anyway, when we all know he is. But it's a fascinating one because you say, why always us? I think we have to remember in this particular case, it wasn't only us because he did the same to Arsenal last year and to Bayern Munich and to Barcelona. This is a kid who has quite often looked like he's been wanting to go, and then something, for whatever reason, has told him to stay. Now, I think we can all understand that Real Sociedad pulled out all the stops. They played the good cop, then they played the bad cop, and it appears to have worked. The fascinating thing for me, just an aside on Sociedad and their tactics, is what are they going to say to him if they now end up selling Mikel Merino to Arsenal? That's all I want to know. But yeah, it's a difficult saga for Liverpool fans to swallow because, as Mo rightly pointed out, you got the feeling that with the new regime, that as soon as any public proclamations were made, we were 90 to 95% down the line. And for all we know, they could have believed that to be the case. And this could have been one of those situations where Zubimendi or someone within his camp have changed their mind, gone back on what they gave their word to at a late date. So right now it's going to sting. Right now it's going to hurt. And particularly because we've waited so long before action in this, because frankly, I'm not concerned about what the rest of the teams in the other top 5 leagues have done. I'm concerned about what Liverpool are doing. And 2 things for me. One, the manager himself said that he would be very surprised if we didn't sign anyone. So if this doesn't go through and we end up fumbling another deal because we've left it too late, then he's going to be upset. And number 2, Richard Hughes, we were told his expertise was in doing exactly this, making deals, using his contact book and getting things over the line. So the very first one for him to try and do to fail as spectacularly as this is going to put himself under a massive amount of pressure. And I'm aware, obviously, there's been tournaments, there's been a new manager who's wanted to see the players, and those things can cause delays in these kind of deals. I do also think, however, Richard Hughes has been around for a while. He could have quite easily started these wheels and machinations with Zubimendi's agency and with La Real long before the tournament even started, let alone finished. So that's kind of where I'm at with all this right now. A little bit frustrated, but we've still got 20, well, no, not even 20 something days, 19 days to see where we end up.
Hello, Brother Jazz. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Guys, there's over 1,100 of you eager beavers in here. And of course, the majority of you are here for Liverpool tiers. I would appreciate if you just hit a like for every Liverpool tier. That's what I'm asking for. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. And just listen to us make excuses, try to give context, whatever. Just pour our hearts out. The 2 Mo's have poured their hearts out. I'm treading on dangerous territory if I ask you to pour your heart out, because I don't know if my show will be copyrighted, or get struck off YouTube. But your initial reaction and feelings to the breaking news?
Nah, I'm just so blah to it all. It's nothing that we're not used to. It's nothing I expect. It's no use having a rant about it. But I don't know if you've seen Twitter. Lewis Steele, who's been pretty decent this summer, just said we're not going for another number 6 now. That's enough. We had our go at the 1. We're not buying another now. So all I gotta say is, people on Twitter, and I was just speaking to somebody today, the way some of us fans have been speaking about Klopp in the last few months is just embarrassing. Oh, the laptop nerds are here. Edwards is back. Klopp was messing everything up. Now he's in charge. Blah, blah, blah. But what are we, 2.5 months into their reign in charge of the club from top to bottom? And their first signing is this. This is it. This is it. We're now, what, 19 days before the end of the window? We're 4 days before the start of the season? No contract signed. We have 4 world-class players. 3 of them could walk and sign pre-contracts at Christmas. But no one's saying that, oh, we haven't got time to talk to players and talk to our own players at the same time. That's too hard. Or the best one I like is, well, what you want? They were away on international duty. How could you talk to them? I don't think some of our fans understand that the players themselves don't negotiate the contracts. Their agents do. No, they were away. They were away. Okay, sure. Let's go with that as well. No player negotiations, no signings, but we're told to have faith. Stop being bedwetters. Come on, guys. Don't be wolves. It's embarrassing how this club is run. But I just can't wait for most of these people to find a brilliant way to bend it all to blaming Klopp for this. I guess Klopp didn't want Zubimendi to come, or Klopp didn't want to spend the money. It just happens too often, and the ones that pay attention know about it. We know what's coming with this club all the time. And now to say we're not going to go for another number 6. Okay, sure. I'm not saying it's the Hughes' fault or Edwards' fault or whatever, but you've been secret for what, 2.5 months? Oh, we work in secrecy. This is a new Liverpool. This is the way we are, man. We're smooth operators. The first player you put your neck on the line and say is coming, this is what happens. It's embarrassing.
I want to come back this way up again. So I'll go to Mo Stewart. We started that way down. We're going to go this way back up. Mo Stewart, that line from Lewis Steele, does that surprise you? Because that sounds like an instant brief as well about we're not going to go back. It's unlikely. And he's the only one at the moment that has said it. I've just checked it. He's the only one that said it, that we're unlikely to go in back for a 6. Now, knowing the way preseason has gone, knowing the way Slot has very openly, guys, not favoured Endo by not picking him and just giving him barely any minutes, picking Gravenberch as a 6 ahead of him, Curtis Jones as a 6 ahead of him. How does that sit with you if that's the case?
It's gonna be interesting, is what it's gonna says to me, because obviously that there's also Stefan Bajcetic in the building who would potentially come into more of a view in that scenario. But for me, I literally said on a show this afternoon that I didn't think Zubimendi was good enough to say him or no one else.
Absolutely spot on.
This isn't a Chiromeni, this isn't a Bellingham situation.
Absolutely
this isn't a Van Dijk situation. There should be a list of players. Like, I feel frustrated because I'm not necessarily someone who you call a recruitment expert, but I'm also not being paid hundreds of millions of pounds to be a recruitment expert. But the people who are should be able to find more than one guy out there. Now, what I also did say is that this isn't just a simple switch across to any of the other big number 6s currently been mooted. So an Alan Varela, Emmanuel Ugarte, because I do think that they are different kinds of footballers, and that difference in terms of how they play doesn't necessarily mean that we can just automatically go from one to the other. But there must be some people out there. And I mean, you talk about Gravenberch, and yeah, I fully expect him to start the season in that position against Ipswich. And you can see from his skill set that why a coach, a very good coach of players, would believe that he can mold him into that job. But what you also saw is him trying to do tricks in the opponent's penalty area. And it's like, I don't really think that that's what you really want from your deepest line midfielder personally. So it means to me that he's got a long way to go to learn the diligence and the discipline and the game intelligence needed to play that role. So the idea that there is no one else coming into it is either, number one, putting a lot of pressure on Stefan Bajcetic, or number two, just putting a lot of pressure on Ryan Gravenberch, and maybe number one and two, a big risk.
Mo, this could be, Mo Stewart says, huge pressure on the said players. Isn't this automatically putting huge pressure on the manager, on the new coach? The new coach is I think it's evident to see in preseason the way we've been building up, the way we've been setting up formation-wise, the way he's been selecting his players. Midfield is where his emphasis is at, and he's spoken about combinations. And it's very clear to every man and his dog and his woman and his fridge and his cat that Zubimendi was sort of targeted, or a 6 was targeted, and we spoke about it. Now, like Mo says, if no Zubimendi, how are they going to explain or justify no one else? Because, and people can slaughter me as much as they want, and of course, that's what we're here for. You can take the rough with the smooth. But I remember even on our show, I said, I'm not a huge Zubimendi fan, and so if he's a good player in isolation, I just don't know if he's the right profile for Liverpool in the current setup in the midfield. I still want that profile of player, Mo. How are they going to explain this?
Well, the reason or excuse, depending on which way you look at it, we often hear when these deals don't transpire is, well, we want to bring the right player in. So even if you have to wait a year, we will wait a year and then try again. The problem is this is now 3 successive summers where we've identified a player for that position, even when Fabinho was still here, and we've not been able to complete any deal. So there is a pattern here, and fans, we'll be asking questions, rightly so, to say, well, look, this was a priority for us even when Fabinho was here, because as he was coming towards the end of 22-23, the signs were there that maybe he was on the decline. 21-22, and then we saw that in scary levels of evidence in 22-23's final season here. And then we didn't replace him properly last summer. Yes, we brought in Endo, but very much a stopgap, limited player, a Schmatka sign-in after the Caicedo situation ended up with yet more embarrassment for the club. So to end up in this situation again, and albeit, Lewis Steele has come out and said, look, it's not likely that the club will now pursue somebody else. I'd be still surprised if that's really the case. I'm sure that the club must have had more than just the one target. And if we get to the end of the window and nobody does come through the door, then, it does beg some serious questions. And I think part of that scrutiny has to be aimed at the common denominator, the ownership. We have had a change of manager. We have had a change of the hierarchy above and around the manager. And yet we've had yet another window where, the cynics who don't trust that we will spend big are going to be saying right now, we told you so. And how can you argue against them? Because the evidence with 2 weeks to go is we're going to have another disappointing window. So, there's still the opportunity for Hughes and Co to pull the cat out of the bag and get these positions filled with 2 or 3 great signings. But with each passing day, that confidence wanes.
Confidence is something that you didn't have, Jas, and you will be justified in having that stance. What is your stance now? Are you look, as the other guys have said, is it 2 weeks to go? Just over 2 weeks to go, right? The state of the contracts the state of the contracts are there to see. Virgil van Dijk says he's not been spoken to. We know the Mohamed Salah situation. The Trent contract situation, I want to come in later on. In terms of the number 6 and a centre back or a left back and all this other chat, Jas, are you really of the opinion that that's it? And if that's the case, where do we go from here in terms of what does this say for the new hierarchy in terms of the recruitment team only having one player targeted for a role as important as the number 6? Are we seriously going to suggest that we had one player?
Bro, even if we had someone else, what we're going to turn around and pick up the phone and say, oh, you know what? We really wanted you. It was just that Zubimendi got in the way. Tell you what, come on, quick. Look, it's neither here nor there. Every window is the same. Me and you spoke, I think, May on Twitter. And I said to you, I think we get 3 in. And you were like, no, we'll get 2 in. I said, I think Diaz goes. We were having a chat about 3 in. And you were like, 2, 3. I was like, okay, whatever.
2's a stretch now. 2's a stretch now. I was like.
Then we all went down to 2. All right, we'll get 2 in. 2 in. Right now, I am telling you what happens every window. They bring the expectations down as low as they can. And if Trent resigns, we will be celebrating like we won the league. Oh my God, we've re-signed one of our own. That's it, celebrate. I'm telling you which way this is going. They've made a pig's ear of it, and it's going to be the same thing come September the 1st. Stop talking about transfers, get behind the team, and you know what? Wait till January. We've been here, man. It's exhausting. On the bright side, the club have got money in the bank, so I'm glad they're happy. Our balance sheets look even healthier. I'm sure Mo can say how much better we're doing now with the balance sheets. It's so obvious how we run the club. And when it blows up in your face like this, there's nowhere else to go. We're stuck with it. What they're going to do, turn around to Varela and say, by the way, we were joking about Zubimendi. It was you we wanted.
Joke. That was a joke.
Come on, we'll do this. No, you can't do nothing now. You've left yourself with egg on your face, and other clubs now know you're desperate. So now what? We're back to being Liverpool as always. Same old stuff.
Mo Stewart.
You tell me now. Okay, 3 guys in this. If we end the window with one player and Trent and Virgil signs, we'll all be happy. We could pretend we'd be happy. We'd be like, right, at least that good players are staying. Because they've lowered us so far down that we think re-signing players is a bonus. Whereas when Gerrard signed his contracts or Xabi Alonso extended or Torres extended, I never knew nothing about it until it was like, oh, by the way, they've extended it. Okay, sure, that's normal. But now it's like, oh my God, can our players sign contracts? It's amazing. It's such a bonus for us that players want to be with us. And this will be the end of the window. On the 30th of August or 31st, they'll announce someone's re-signed. Probably Nat Phillips again for another 10 years. But it's we've been here. You're not going to go get it. Who else? There's Varela. How many DMs? Ugarte, they said they don't want. I've been screaming for Ugarte for 2 years now. Apparently, he's not creative enough. I don't know what we're looking for a guy that breaks ankles. But right, so wipe him off. You got Varela. Go and get Varela. He's not going to want to come now as a, oh, so you want me now? We know where we are with this now. We know where we are. And they're running out of places to hide because even their fan club, the Make Liverpool Great Again fans, they can't really keep saying, oh, but. You're running out of places to hide now.
So
you can't blame Klopp or Schmidt.
I disagree on two slight areas here. Number one, we definitely remember when Steven Gerrard resigned, because I fully remember there was at least 2 sagas that went on very similar to what Zubimendi's been going through, one of which after we literally just won the fucking Champions League. So
yeah, we gave him a new contract. After that, he went asking for a new contract. He wanted to leave. Let's be fair. He wanted to go to a rich club. We were paupers. Zubimendi wants to be the Real Sociedad Letitia and stay where he is. All power to him. You be him.
It's not quite as simple as that, though, is it? Because like at the time that before we were winning the Champions League, we were up against the Chelsea side. Like you can't say that it was easy to say, oh, this team is good enough to win trophies. Because frankly, it wasn't. So he was in a very similar situation to what Zubimendi's in now. And we were all just hoping on vibes and on belief and on, oh, well, this is Liverpool and he loves us, that we'll stay. And this is another thing that I bring in with Trent, right? I take this Trent contract news as separate to all of this. So, yes, if we announce the Trent's re-signing, I will be happy. I will be celebrating. That doesn't mean to say I'll be satisfied. That's a very, very different thing. I don't think you should say that we shouldn't celebrate if Trent decides to sign on, because
I wasn't saying it as if we shouldn't celebrate. Of course, we should celebrate that our vice captain wants to stay with us. The point I'm making is it'll be balanced out with the fact that we don't get what we want, but we'll just be grateful that one of our world-class players has stayed.
Well, I think we're allowed to be grateful that one of our world-class players has stayed. But again, I don't think that doesn't necessarily means that we won't be upset with the way that this has played out, because this is the thing, right? We have to remember that, like I said before, Slot was the one who said that he'd be surprised if there weren't more signs made. He put that out there in the public sphere. He put pressure on the people making the deals in the same way that Virgil and what he said literally yesterday kind of did the same thing. It's like, look, I expect us to sign players. We know how hard it is to win leagues. We know that a big part of why we kind of fell off towards the end of last season is because of the squad strength, not just the fact that we were asking young kids to go above and beyond, but that we had so many injured players who were coming back and they were all rusty, and we had to rely on them maybe earlier than we should have done, and it all petered out. And a way to avoid that is to have a stronger, bigger squad. Now, that does not mean that we turn into Chelsea and we have 4 players for every position, but that does mean that we want to be deeper within what we are and what we do. Now, again, I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for them, because I'm not. I'm as angry as you are. And I agree with Mo Chatra to say that the ownership and their methods probably plays more of a part of this than we realize. What I would also say with that, though, I don't know whether or not this particular situation with Zubimendi is one that we could have thrown more money at. We could have done it earlier. We definitely could have done it earlier, but I don't necessarily think an extra 10 or 20 million thrown at either him or the club would have made a difference, because it sounds like he said yes and then he turned around and said no. My issue is
Also, I was going to say, yeah, sorry, carry on. I'm just going to say, yeah. So the aforementioned Lewis Steele we just spoke about has said that he had given his word to Richard Hughes. Him and his agent had given his word, and he literally told them tonight that he's changed his mind, and it was a complete 360.
And without wanting to sound like I'm a lover scorned, when you think about the reasons why that might have been the case, considering the news came out today around the fact that he would have to pay the release clause and essentially have to say to the Sociedad fans, the L'Oreal fans, that he wanted to leave, that he didn't want to be there anymore. And it appears, I can only go on what we've seen, I don't know the full insert, it appears that he didn't want to do that he did not want to become the bad guy. Then that has to kind of call some of his own attitude and suitability into question, whether or not he'll be able to deal with a club like Liverpool anyway. So with that in mind, the question again becomes, does it really mean that it was him or no one? Is there really no one else out there? And yeah, I'm not quite as high on Ugarte because I do think that he's just a more mobile version of Endo. And if we are trying to change the way we play, then it might run into similar problems. But I'm pretty sure that there are other players out there who all of us can name who have quality on the ball. So I'm going to throw a name in there who has already begun to be linked with Liverpool from lots of fans who are desperate. Adam Wharton. We all know how this guy can play. Like, the problem with Adam Wharton is that he has signed a 5-year contract. So this is where FSG and their financial play will come into it. This is where you say, okay, look, you don't want to pay big money for players. You don't want to pay 60, 70 million pounds for a 20-year-old who's had 6 months in the Premier League. But do you want to back your manager? Do you want to say that we will do what it takes for you to be able to implement the football that you want to put in? And that will be the test. This will be the test. If they don't, then all of the kind of criticisms that fall their way, it's hard to not justify them.
It's hard to not justify them. We're going to go through a couple of super chats that are related. Mo, exactly. Great timing. Mo sends in a super chat. There's 3 Mo's on the show. He says, drop 100 mil on Palace front door for Wharton. Easier said than done, right? I mean, not dropping the money. Well, that's hard as itself, sorry. But sort of prizing away Wharton, for me, who would be my number one choice. And some people may take it overreacting or being premature in my praise for Wharton, but I think he's him. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Harry says, love the show, guys. It's hard not to be slightly negative after this news. No signings and no contract renewals with not long to go. I will happily eat my words, but not the best start. Harry, thank you for the super chat, first of all. And it's hard not to be slightly negative. I think that's an understatement. So big up yourself. Nick says, big up, lads. Jassy, a musical legend, United fan, but where do you guys think you're going to finish this season? I think top 4 along with us, City and Arsenal. We'll discuss.
Great intro to that message. Awful ending. There's no way United finish top 4. No chance.
We'll discuss that.
No chance. Oh, get away. Ajax Mark II.
Guys, I think it is a very important question to be had about in terms of ambition, expectation now. Unfortunately, I didn't want to use those words, but unfortunately, I think we have to use those words, ambition and expectation, because we'll get there. Mike Das says, except that with FSG at the helm, we will never be winners. We may get lucky, but never winners. Any opposition is brainwashed back to being a casual. Imagine what Trent and VVD are thinking. We may touch upon that. Virgil only yesterday talking about surely we're working behind the scenes. Captain saying that. Alison Becker, the real Alison Becker. What happens if we don't sign a 6 now? Question mark. Next summer we might need a centre back, right wing, and a 6. How does this work with PSR rules? Can we use the 200 mil next summer?
We don't disturb FFP or PSR. They don't disturb us. Okay, don't worry about that. We got no. They don't even have us on file. We're not involved in the conversation.
Mo, bear that one in mind because you'll come to that one in a minute. Just realised Liverpool have loads to do next summer now already, so delaying the arrival of a number 6 probably isn't an option. Failed on Zabi, Bordeaux. The buying of the club. Okay, yeah. This is worrying. We're going to be left behind. And Sean says, FSG pull the wool over our eyes again. PR masterclass, and we fall for it again. Get real, top Reds. In terms of financial situation and our stronghold in that sector and market, we know that we've sold Fabio Carvalho this window for a nice, healthy profit. We know that we are on the verge of accepting a bid for Bobby Clark for a nice, healthy profit. We know we are now, who else is there, guys? Vandenberg. Endo probably up in the air now. We can have a little discussion what we do with Wataru Endo now. But this is not a financial situation, is it? This is, what is this, Mo Chatra? What is this? Is this a pull? Is this amateurish in the market? I thought we're professional again. I thought we know what we're doing and we agree with the player before we brief these big boys in the journalists, in journalism. How do we justify? How do we make sense of this?
Okay, well, before I answer that question, I just want to finish off on this deal and I think what has gone wrong here. Now, multiple reports in the last few minutes have said the player had said yes to Liverpool. We also know that the player had a buyout clause figure of about 60 million euros, which is about 51 million quid. Yet Liverpool clearly didn't exercise the buyout clause. Now, knowing that the player was saying no to a number of top clubs over the last couple of years, to even get to the point where he's giving you a yes, you move very quickly. You don't hang about in case he has the cold feet and changes his mind. And what it appears to me very much is Liverpool didn't want to trigger the buyout clause, that they instead looked to negotiate a deal with Real Sociedad. Everything points to that. So whilst they've been trying to negotiate the deal, in the meantime, Sociedad have still gotten into the players here to say, look, are you really sure? You've grown up here, man and boy, you've done this for us, we'll make you the star of the show, all this stuff. Take him on a bit of a guilt trip, and it's clearly worked. And the club, Liverpool that is, have been left with their egg on their face again after what happened last year, Caicedo, Lavia. And, we saw it with Tchouameni and Jude Bellingham.
Yes, the list is, now that you reminded me about the list, this is going to be so hard because I'm so sorry, Mo. I'm so sorry. Carry on. Sorry.
No. So there is a clear pattern here for me. And again, I can point at no one else but the model that is in place that stems from the ownership. This is a club that generates amongst the top 4, 5, 6 amounts of revenue in world football. And yet we are not acting like a big club. That instead we look to negotiate, low initial payments and then increase it a little bit more from there. This is out of kilter with a lot of the top clubs around Europe who are acting in a very, very different way. So there's some serious questions that I think have to be answered by the ownership if we don't see a good amount of business being taking place before the end of the window. So, yeah, I think in answer to your question, for me, it's just inexcusable at this stage. And it's not something I think that necessarily needs to be pinned on Richard Hughes, because look, he ultimately has to take orders when it comes to the financials from above. Now, if the order was right, if the player said yes, activate the buyout clause, send him the money, he sends the money to La Liga will pay Real Sociedad, over and done with, job done, get him leaning and we move on to the next target. Clearly, it's not transparent like that. It looks to me very much so like we were trying to play hardball in negotiations with Sociedad. In the meantime, players got cold feet, changed his mind ultimately, and we're back to square one.
Mo, do you feel that we did drag our feet? What are you more frustrated with? The manner of the pursuit, the time of the pursuit, like in terms of sort of late in the window? Where's your frustration lie right now? Without, obviously, we haven't had time to think about it and sort of evaluate everything. Because there's frustration. Look, let's not beat around the bush, guys. There is huge frustration.
Yeah.
There will be huge anger with some people. I am not angry. I'm very frustrated. And I'm not lost in terms of I've not given up, because my end all and be all wasn't Zubimendi. My end all and be all was to bring in a player. So there's still scope to bring in a player. And I've been very adamant that as long as we bring in a player, I'm okay. I trust it. I trust their judgment in the player, in the quality of player. But trusting to get the said target is waning, Mo.
No, I get that, and I'm with you. Mo makes a really good point actually, because when you consider, as I mentioned previously, the fact that Zubimendi has rejected other clubs, big clubs, your Barcelonas, your Bayern Munichs, even Arsenal's previously. When you get a guy like that to say yes to you, you move quickly. You do whatever it takes to say, okay, I'm not giving you a chance to change your mind. Here's the money. Go down the La Liga offices. Bang, 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 done. If he's worried about getting to say goodbye, we'll just sort him out. Or we'll play a preseason friendly at the anyway to next summer. He gets to go and wave everyone goodbye. Happy days. Like, that's doable. That's doable. But it appears that we have tried to kind of finagle on some of the payment structures and tried to kind of work it slightly differently. And that has allowed the space for Sociedad to turn around to him and say, well, if they really wanted you that badly, they'd just pay the money up front, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? And that's where you get into a situation where it's like, you are going to have to be the bad guy. And that's not something that actually happens a lot in Spain. And so you can understand why Zubimendi would have been a little bit balking at that. I still think that in itself shouldn't be enough to make him change his mind, but that's just me. Something else that's just popped up in the latest update from Paul Joyce, just a word that kind of caught my eye within his little report. Having been told that he would be prepared to leave in this window, Liverpool made an opportunistic attempt to sign Zubimendi. Now, if you remember earlier on in the window at the first press conference, the idea of Liverpool being opportunistic was kind of raised quite a few times, I think by Richard Hughes himself. And we all kind of wondered what that meant. Where are we opportunistic? What does that mean? Well, if it means that we were actually happy to go in with our midfield stocks, then we got wind that maybe Zubimendi's gettable, so we tried to get him. I feel like that's a little bit weak, personally. I think that you either are okay and happy with your midfield stocks or you aren't.
And it's so obvious we aren't.
Yeah, I think so. I think that you look at it, and like you said, Grizz, earlier, look at the way the Wataru Endo has been played, and frankly has played over the course of this preseason. And it's really easy to say that he's not going to be trusted to have the influence that he was under Klopp. Like, I'd be very surprised if he got a run of like 6 or 7 starts in a row like he did in the kind of January to February time under Klopp. I'd be very surprised. So that then tells you, okay, well, clearly, if we're still looking at other players, then we need to try and find a new way of doing things. But I think that we're putting on this whole opportunistic business is putting too much undue pressure upon ourselves. Like, what? Because the thing with being opportunistic is that when it doesn't work, like it didn't with Caicedo, you end up looking stupid. And we could say, oh, well, we then ended up signing someone in Endo, but here we are 12 months later saying that this guy's not the right guy and looking to replace him. So if you think about it, the most time, effort, and structure and planning we put into any midfielder signing over the last 4 years was Alexis McAllister, and he's comfortably been the best of all of them. So maybe we should be doing more of that.
Jas, I know you want to go to town on this opportunistic approach because I know how strongly you feel about sort of what level of club we are and what level of club that we act like. So
no, it's very well said. It's that simple, really. Well, Liverpool Football Club, we used to say that when we weren't winning anything, but we became a force again. We're making as much money as Man United, who are apparently the biggest club in probably the world, or whatever you want to say, in England. And yet here we are again, another window, scratching and sniffing around, hoping we can get a player in. Not like, someone's come right in your DM, left back, right wing, learn from Mo, let's go get him. Cool. Maybe we'll get a player. If we sell him, we move his wages off the thing, his money will come back this way. We can take a loan from that side. And big clubs don't act like that. And with the owners, I've said it repeatedly, winning for them is a bonus. They'd rather just stick around the top four, not pay out those bonuses, and they're more than happy. Winning just gets in the way of their plan. And that's all it is now. That's all we are. We're sitting here 5 days before the window opens. And yeah, it's bad luck that Letitia wanted to stay at Sociedad. Fine, whatever. I'm not bothered. That's great.
You're really going to call him Letitia, aren't you? You're really going to call him Letitia from now.
If you're happy to stay at a small Spanish club for the rest of your career, like Letitia was happy to stay at the Del and be the king of the Del his whole career, good luck to you, mate. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. You're not bothering me. But if you're telling me the laptop nerds, the Big Bang Theory guys that are in charge suddenly are now saying, well, that's it. We shot our load. We had one player in mind. Now we'll just wait till next summer. All right, cool. It is what it is. We're still going to get top four just because we'll score 100 goals. And by definition, if you score around 100 goals-ish, you get top four. That's not the problem, but that's all FSG want. Competing for the title, we all know we're probably a DM and a left-sided defender away from being one of the most complete teams out there. And it's the fact that we're so close.
So close.
And yet we're so close, but we're always ending windows just so close, just so close. And it could all be rectified, but we just choose not to. And I don't see the Liverpool fan base is now split into, the top reds, the bottom red, whatever it is. I don't see any fans on social media or anywhere screaming for, we need to go get Mbappe, Bellingham, X, Y, and Z. We need to spend 500 million this window. Otherwise, most fans just say we need to address the problems in our team. And then they get painted with this, oh, you're greedy, you're a bedwetter. No, we needed a DM for how long? And we still haven't got one. And now they're saying we might not get one. We might have to wait till next summer because we're going to be able to replace our number 6, our right wing, and our centre back with our 40 million budget that we have every summer, ain't we? And then none of this makes sense. None of it makes sense. They're selling kids, and everyone's like, oh, look, we're back in business, man. We're selling the kids. Okay, great, but they're not disturbing our first team. Whether they go on loan or don't go on loan. If they go on loan, great, they get better. If they don't, the 8 million we're going to get for Clark ain't going to change our budget for the summer or change the level of player we're going for. So how about you just focus on getting the players in and selling the useless ones that we don't want? But it's just there's no focus to any of it. Come straight away in the summer, we should have had the contract talks done. You know what? If Trent, sell him, fine, I'm done, sell him. Don't let it drag on now to September, October, November, December. It's ridiculous. But why can't we do more than one thing at a time? Why can't we negotiate with them as we talk to players, as we do anything? It's like our club does one thing at a time, and we're running out of time to do this. And it's so frustrating because, as I keep saying, we are so close. But maybe some people don't want to. Maybe some people are happy with being close because then you don't pay that winning bonus. Then you don't have to worry about anything else. We are so close. And that's maybe top 4 is the aim every year. And if some fans are happy with that, and I know quite a lot of Liverpool fans who are saying, hey, we missed out on top 4. You should be happy we get top 4. It's a blessing. Okay, cool then. Then we're not the club that's about winning trophies. We're about the club that's about blimmin', what's the self-sufficient again. We're back to that. We're worried about spreadsheets and self-sufficient. I want to win trophies. I'm a Liverpool fan that wants to win trophies. And the only way we're going to do that is by being more ruthless in what we do.
Messi sends in a super chat. Again, it's the real Messi. Only stars tune into the show. He says that Klopp call used to hit different. I feel sorry for Steve Hall. Okay, Anisla, he means. By the way, Joyce has said the same. Our new head coach not being backed. We can't hide behind Klopp. Mo Chatra, we spoke a few weeks ago about FSG not having that man, that myth, that legend to sort of not hide behind, but sort of pull them out of the fire, save their asses, some would say. You know, we haven't got that now. They're on a hiding to nothing. Now, I know it's difficult to pin down who's to blame for this scenario. Lewis Steele has just said again, Liverpool have now, he's changed his tune slightly. He says now Liverpool have not completely ruled out signing a sixth this summer, but is now seen as unlikely given the time left in the transfer window and also the club's desire to not sign players for the sake of it. That's the frustrating part, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, the club itself made this deliberate decision that we'll wait until August. You know, Richard Hughes pretty much came out and said as such. Not quite to those words, but effectively so.
No, that's being wrong. Don't forget, players were away on holiday and international duty, and we all know that players negotiate their own deals, and it's not agents. So you can't blame Richard Hughes for that, because apparently we can't talk to Trent until he's sitting in the opposite everyone. So I'm sorry, that's what Twitter tells me all the time.
Look, you know, we're in this situation now where, on the one hand, Reds are very optimistic. We've had a really good pre-season. We like what we're seeing from Arne Slot in terms of how he set up the patterns of play.
Yeah.
Some very impressive performances. We want that supplemented and topped off with signings. We know that there are obvious weaknesses, and if we get those signings, there's still time. But as I said earlier, with each passing day, that confidence will wane. And some people obviously have got no confidence whatsoever. I personally went into this window with my expectations at rock bottom, because I'll tell you for what, in the last 14 years under the ownership, we've only had really one transfer window, arguably two, where Reds felt, okay, we've had a really good window. And that was probably the last one 6 years ago, 2018 summer, when we got in Alisson, Naby, Fabinho. Even then, there were still grumblings, because if you remember, Fekir, the deal didn't come through, and we didn't properly go and sign a replacement. Instead, we brought in a stopgap in Xherdan Shaqiri from Stoke. But nonetheless, fans were still very optimistic, because we thought, yeah, this is it. Great signings. We're good to go. And we went on and won the Champions League, that following summer. So we've been waiting since then, 6 years. Yes, we've made some very good signings since then, don't get me wrong. But a window where we've really filled the fan base with real optimism. Yeah, we've done some really good business. I mean, last summer was probably the closest we came, but even then, there was the disappointment and embarrassment around not signing a proper DM, and we went with a stopgap in Endo, and he did a bit of a job for 2-3 months, but then towards the end of the season, he wasn't really delivering. But under this new ownership, under the new manager and the new kind of management structure, I was thinking, look, are we going to see a change now? But I still thought, no, it's the same ownership. So if I set my expectations low, they can only pleasantly be surprised. And yet those expectations are being met, and I don't feel good about that.
I'm trying to bring up the tweet from Lewis Steele that he's talking about sort of the PR of Richard Hughes taking a battering tonight. And it is kind of important and relevant, guys. Mo Stewart, I mean, a guy, not only Arne Slot, walking into his first job. I mean, I know it's not his first job, Richard Hughes is, but it's a massive job for him. This won't look good on him. But like Jassy said earlier on, should the blame be levied at him? Where do we go from here? So I'll try to read it out as well at the same time. He says, Richard Hughes' PR is taking a battering tonight, and I'm not going to defend the new regime. Liverpool are definitely undercooked going into the new season. Number 6 is a glaring weakness in the squad. And this is a journalist who's been very close to the squad throughout the preseason. And he's been getting a lot of vibes from the camp in terms of what they're looking for, what they want. On this one, though, Martin Zubimendi had given his word to join the club. If he didn't want the move, he was clearly not right. Not sure Hughes is to blame here, not fully anyway, but you can't hide the fact that Liverpool need a couple of new faces to close the gap on Manchester City and Arsenal. No quality number 6 for 3 seasons now. Just look at Rodri and how big City's drop-off is, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of fact, isn't it, Mo?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to an extent. So I don't think Richard Hughes is the reason why Zubimendi didn't sign. It sounds like Richard Hughes would have been a large part of the reason why he did sign in terms of the negotiations and all of those kind of things. What Mo said earlier regarding Liverpool potentially hanging over the structure may well have certainly undermined him to a certain extent. However, the one and done nature of this transfer pursuit, that does come under his remit. The idea that the much vaunted transfer crew, I bring Will Spearman and the data team into all of that as well. The fact that they are telling us all that in world football, there is one player who can bring in, who will be able to play the way that Arne Slot wants to play. Is this the most complicated tactical system that any of us have ever seen in our lives? No, it is not. So you can say, yes, the quality of the number 6 pool now isn't what it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I would probably agree with you. However, I know for a fact that there's going to be players who emerge over the course of this season playing that style of football who look good, who suddenly were like, oh, we could have bought him. He probably would have been all right. And we haven't. So these are the people who are like, well, guys, it's kind of your job to identify these people.
Yeah.
So
this is the point I always try to stress, Mo. This is the way I try. Look, people that listen to my rubbish know that I don't go extreme on either side, right? And I try my level best to try to stay level, right, in the middle. But when it gets to these type scenarios where we're absolutely openly, David Ornstein is probably the GOAT when it comes to journalism, football journalism right now, and he's very well sourced. Everything that he writes is very well sourced. And he says Liverpool have identified a 6 position to be improved on. Right. In other words, I'm just paraphrasing because it's late and my head's gone. My phone's blown up with Man United fans and Arsenal fans and other fans. Right. But Jesse, the part that infuriates me, as it infuriates you, of course, I know, is where they say that player and that's it. And like Mo Stewart said earlier, they can't do that this time, for the love of God. They can't do that this time because this ain't a Chouameni, because this ain't a Jude Bellingham. This is Zubimendi, who is a squad player for the Spanish team. This player is at Real Sociedad. He's not a Chouameni or a Jude Bellingham, or even, to me, Caicedo, because I think Caicedo is brilliant. He's not that level. We can't say, oh, that's the grade A we wanted, and we ain't looking for any other grade. How arrogant of us to think like that. And if we continue that level of arrogance, then I'm afraid we will continue, like we did last season, guys, to drop behind City and Arsenal. Because say what you want, Arsenal and City, we were the top 2. City and Liverpool. We are now the 3rd best team in the Premier League. Who's to say we get into that group and cluster of the other teams, namely Chelsea, Man United, Villas, the Newcastles? Because that's the way it's going, right, Jess?
Look, I'm not angry. This is normal. For whatever, no one was expecting much more than this. My question now is, does anybody out of us guys really feel that the club is gearing toward the title charge? Do you get that feeling? Or do you get the feeling that we're always just gearing towards making top 4?
Yeah, but it was the impetus. Like Mo Chatra said earlier, pre-season was going well. Injury situation looks brilliant. Everything is fine. New regime, new coaches. The players are coming out speaking so brilliantly about the coach. All we need now, we don't want the Mbappes, like you said earlier. We don't want it flushed with a Vinicius Junior type ceiling. We just want a sprinkling of, the finishing touches of the herbs and spices when you make that.
Grizz, this chat could have been from 20. This recording could be from 2016, from 2018. It's the same every. I've been on your show how many times? Every year, a couple of times, and we have the same chat. If only we would just. Anyway, forget that. I also think people are underestimated. Not the real ones, but the ones that are on there telling everyone that, oh, we're better off now. underestimated the power of Klopp picking up a phone. Oh, he didn't have a clue. Edwards was the mastermind. Edwards was this. Edwards was that. All right, cool. He can get his computer out and find the players. I can do the same on Football Manager on my iPad. I can find the players, but making them come and play a certain way, that's down to a special manager, which we had. I think Zubimendi doesn't say no to Klopp. He does not say no to Klopp. Klopp picks up the phone. He won't say no. You're going to now start seeing the effects of not having yet. I have full faith in Arne. I think the guy will do well, but having that man in charge. So now we've got to be a bit better in the transfer market, but we're not gonna. We're gonna keep our same approach of looking for bargains, looking for something that we can turn over for profit in a few years. But again, I'll stand by what I said. The players that we had that became superstars, Klopp was the guy, the master behind helping them become the players they could have become anyway, but he pushed them and mentored them, got them to where they were. And also now
there's no denying that. There is no denying
there is a lot of denying it.
The likes
you
of
know that as well,
the
Grizz.
likes of Sadio Mane, the likes of Bobby Firmino, the likes of Mohamed Salah, all were very good players when we bought them.
They were okay players. They were that mid-tier of players. They were
good players. Come on,
top end. We didn't go into bidding wars for Mo Salah or Gini Wijnaldum. They were good players, but he made them great. Apart from what everyone tells you on social media, how Klopp messed everything up and blah blah blah. That's great. He made these players great. If you look back to our title-winning team, we've still got the same world-class players, and they're coming towards the end of their careers. Ali, Mo, Trent, and Virgil. Ali probably doesn't want to hang around much longer anyway, but he's in a contract. And the other three have got a year left on the contract. So in 4 years, here we are, the same 4 world players at our club.
I wanted to end on that now, because that's all we can do, Mo Chatra. We have to look forward. As much as at the moment we can't see past the like 2 meters.
Okay, guys, genuinely, you've got all your people watching this. I think the 4 of us ain't overly depressed that Zubimendi hasn't come.
Agreed.
It's just the fact that it's a DM, and we all need a DM. So tomorrow morning, if we suddenly announce 11 o'clock, we sign Varela, great, it's a DM we wanted. But the point is, we're all tired of being tired every transfer window. I think that's about it, really.
Mo Chatra, what now? Because I think Virgil spoke, and he's spoken a couple of times now, in terms of we need help almost. We're looking like we're sending out either the young players that are on the verge of squads, like your Bobby Clarks, even Bejitic apparently is being deemed loanable. So we're getting mixed messages, guys. I genuinely thought, oh, brilliant. We're clearing out not deadwood, that's absolutely the wrong word, the bloated squad. We're making space for 2 or 3 quality additions, which is going to make us stronger overall. Are we still on track for this? I'm confused now.
It's hard to look at what's going on with no signings, plus looking to move on an assortment of youngsters and say that we're gearing up for a big season, because we know that the Champions League format has expanded. If we go far in that competition, go far in the domestic competitions, we're talking 60 plus games over the coming season. And at a time when the first team squad is amongst the smallest in the Premier League, and we're getting rid of so many of the younger players that would normally be playing in the early stages of the FA Cup and Carabao, I'm struggling to figure out what exactly we're up to here. Because we already know that a number of these players within our current squad, their injury record isn't the greatest. So when you consider that, getting rid of 6, 7, 8 youngsters who might ordinarily get a few games in the domestic cup competitions, plus making
maybe we called them now. we just sent them on now. Maybe we
boys, Ian Doyle's just tweeted my point about Klopp. Ian Doyle himself has mentioned Klopp.
I'll bring it up now. Go on. I'll bring it up in.
That's when one of the Echo writers says something like that. I guess he's a bedwetter as well, and it hasn't been to Anfield.
So yeah, look, this is in a sense worrying, but at the same time, sorry to say, not unexpected, because we've had this happen too many times. We've seen this play out over and over, as Jazzy said. So
Mo, mate, quick question. I know you're not going to have numbers to hand. How much could we logically be able to spend this window without getting anywhere near its FFP issues? Like just a rough ballpark, you reckon?
Oh, a couple 100 million plus.
No, there you go. Without even getting close to FFP.
I want
Couple
to
of
wrap
hundred
you up.
million.
I want to wrap you up in the next few minutes, guys. Guys, there's still over 1,300 of you guys in there. Smash the like button, if nothing else. We're all a bit despondent. We're all a bit down. But I'd like to think this stream has been not your just shouty and ranty type stream. We've tried to give our opinions and our feelings. It's a difficult time as Liverpool fans right now. But hey, we keep it moving. Mo Stewart, Ian Doyle, pretty much listened to the show. And he heard us talking about this very point, and he said, impossible not to wonder what might have happened with Zubimendi had the lure of Klopp been with Liverpool still. That's not a slight at Slot. That's a mouthful. Who hasn't had a chance yet to earn his reputation at the club. Instead, it's merely a warning of changing times. Ominous, Mo Stewart?
That makes sense. I mean, to be honest, I think the transfer business of Manchester United is the main reason why Erik ten Hag is still there. I think they thought it would be easier to sell people on a regime that is stable rather than going up in the air and starting again. Because once again, I say it, not everyone could be Chelsea. I do agree with what Justin said before in terms of the pull of Klopp and how when you are in a sticky situation, he's an extra card to play. It's not like an invincible card. I mean, obviously, we have to remember the whole Lavia business. But personally, I think that the part of the reason why Lavia didn't want to go is because of all the messing around that was being done above the head of Klopp. So I'm not even sure that I'd put that on him. But
I think the Lavia thing is like where we are now. We chase Casado publicly, and then they're like, okay, Lavia, you come over. And he's like, well, I'm being second best. And it's the same situation.
No, that's exactly what happened.
Same situation we're in right now.
Yeah. And so anybody who comes in, it's going to be hard to convince them that, yes, you're the ones who wanted. You are on our long lists, particularly as people have been briefing that there's now going to be no one. And like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes you're like, we don't want to sound desperate because everyone will put the price up. But by the same token, if you're saying, oh, well, we don't want anybody, and then suddenly be like, oh, actually, what about you? That doesn't really make it sound like that convincing, does it? But changing times for Liverpool, I don't want to go too heavy on this because, as you say, we've still not seen Arne Slot's Liverpool kick a competitive ball. So I don't want to feel like I'm a doom-monger right now. But it's hard to believe that we are going to be as consistently successful immediately as we were under Klopp. Because frankly, we weren't consistently successful immediately under Klopp. It took a while. And yes, you can say the club was in a different place then than it is now. And that's probably a fair point. But the fact of the matter is that you look across European football, how many times has a manager come in immediately and hit the ground running perfectly? I'll just go back to Guardiola. Like Guardiola, where did Man City finish his first season? It wasn't first or second. I think it was fourth, was it? Fourth they finished in the first season. That was what year Leicester won the league. And he had a squad literally built for him for the past 5 years. So I think we have to be slightly prepared for a sticky start at the very worst. But I still think that we won't necessarily be so far away from competing for trophies. And I still think that we should be this season aiming to compete for the very best trophies. If we get to the end of the season and it turns out that we were never in the title race, I'll be disappointed. I'm not going to make a lie of that because we were in the title race for a long time last season. And all of the players who put us in that title race last season are still at the club. One last thing. Just as an aside, to throw another name into the hat that hasn't been talked about much yet. It's interesting to me that the guy who Stuttgart replaced Endo with, Angelo Stiller, is a good one.
There's no way there's not names out there. I hate that part. This is the part I hate. Like, I actually lose it. I don't normally lose it, but I hate the part where they say no other alternative. I absolutely respect Endo. I absolutely appreciate Endo. I absolutely, adore him for the level of professionalism he brought in, and done a job for us. Don't insult our footballing intelligence. Don't, by saying there's nothing better than Endo right now.
The other thing about this, Grizz, right, is that we've heard quite a few times this summer about how great a coach Arne Slot is. There was some Miguel Delaney saying he might be one of the best training ground coaches in the world right now. Well, surely, if you've got a guy that's that good at coaching footballers, then you can take someone who's a little bit below the elite level and elevate him to the elite level. And players with the potential to be great, there are loads of them. Loads.
Guys, it's been emotional. I think it's been emotional. Yeah, it has been. The whole tune of the show, the whole agenda of the show changed at the very last minute. But I'd like to think we brought you some good, healthy chat. Nothing too outlandish, I guess. I mean, it is a difficult situation, difficult place to go live as soon as you hear this news, when it's just thrust upon you, because not only us, but every top journalist, whether it's from Liverpool or the UK or the Spanish, the local journalists, even 20 minutes before the news broke, were suggesting it's impossible he will turn down Liverpool in this situation. It's impossible he would change his mind. The case has been made. He's packed his bags. Real Sociedad have resigned to losing. The release clause we were going to speak about. Football's a humbler. People want to know what I was going to review in terms of news. Of course, the Trent, we're talking about contracts. I believe, and again, I say this just for myself now, I believe the Trent deal will be announced very soon. It might be
31st of August. 31st of August.
I believe we have an agreement with Trent for his contract, but
come on, Grizz. Cheering.
That's the celebration part where we're not supposed to celebrate now, or I don't know how we deal with this. But roll on the season, man. Before the season, of course, we have, as we said, we have 20 odd days to bring in a DM. F Zubimendi, right? That's not the but it is what it is, right, Mo? Because it is what it is. It's countdown. Didn't. We don't want to hear that. And no DM. We don't want to hear that bit. We need a DM. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rafa. There's a super chat that says someone saying I haven't read out. Oh, there you go. So that's why I said it's the Trent contract news. But I'm saying it with not much motivation and elevation and happiness as I would have.
Well, if he signed, that comes out of our transfer budget, as we know. So maybe, come on, Grizz, I'm joining up all the dots now. Come on, Mo, as we're always told by FSG, you can't sign players when you're spending on contract renewal. So, Grizz, you could be the reason that we didn't get Zubimendi. The truth's coming out now.
Guys, it's been emotional. It's been wonderful.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Stewart. Thank you, Jazz. And thank you, 1,500 of you that consistently joined us. We go again. We keep going. We don't stop.